Don't chase money, chase your passion. Most side hustles fail because people just follow trends. But when you choose something you truly love, success becomes simple. In this episode of Six Figure Side Hustle, Jonathan Foltz shows how a 15-year-old turned his passion into $1.5 million using Shopify and smart ads. His secret? Picking something exciting, getting mentors, and using powerful AI tools like ChatGPT. Right now, the world is changing fast. Adapt or get left behind. Choose a side hustle that makes you proud. Your best year starts today. Special thanks to Jeff Hayes for partnering with us to release this content exclusively here on my YouTube channel. And if you've been here before, drop the hashtag Believe in the comments below so I can feature you here in a future video. And if you're new, welcome to Believe Nation, the only channel that helps you believe in yourself daily, one video at a time.
This next interview is very energizing. It's with Jonathan Foltz. And Jonathan is somebody who's a great entrepreneur, but really understands the e-commerce side of things. And we also have a fascinating conversation around the influence or the impact of AI on everything. And if you're going to start a side hustle, you better understand what role AI might play in it or not. So let's dive into this interview. It's very contemporary information, very current information, and very valuable information. Jonathan, I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. You're a fascinating guy, and I think you also can add a lot of value to this conversation. So thanks for taking the time with us.
So I'm actually glad to be here. Love what you guys are doing and excited about what you guys are putting together.
So let's go back first to your background. What got you into doing what you're doing today? What was your trajectory like?
I mean, it really goes back to high school. I started my side hustles literally in high school, probably actually middle school, where my mom gave me the ability to sell baseball cards. I failed miserably because I was opening them up, everything like that, but she gave me the opportunity. Also, my parents got divorced at a young age, and my mom basically was working on, she was selling jewelry, selling a variety of different things during a small piece because she ended up having to wait for money to come in from my father's side. And what ended up happening is that she was forced to figure out ways to make money. So she would go to these shows and these events to sell jewelry pieces and different type of stuff. And I would see my mom was a hustler. She was really good at what she did. So as a byproduct of being around her and what she was doing, I just kind of started to learn how to speak to people and everything like that. And it just started to open up my entrepreneurial spirit to a high degree. Since that time until today, I've had probably over 30 companies. One thing that I've also done is basically we had a marketing agency called Digital Age Business that worked with all kinds of clients. So there's a very good book that I read that kind of got me to think in a complete different manner. And that was The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. So this book basically says on there that there's going to be a point in time. He wrote this in I think it was 2005, and it was the second or third iteration. And what really stuck out to me, where I was like, holy smokes, this is going to be a brand new world. It started getting me to think on a global level, but simultaneously how easy things can be if you just know where to place yourself. So one of the things that he talked about, and the meaning of the world is flat, is not about the flat world theory or anything like that, for clarity, but it really has to do with how, let's say the United States, our average income is, 70,000, and then you go to India, or if you go to, low income country and it's like 10,000, in due time, you have something, it's a huge disparity in the wealth factor, but in due time, you're going to start seeing India and, South American countries, they're going to start catching up to the United States. The United States will go down because the disparity, and they call that arbitrage. So basically, it was geo arbitrage that I was able to form my company, Digital Age Business, which was the marketing agency. And I realized, because it was just a side hustle at the time, and it was something that I did while I was running my other companies, because it was so easy to get someone, let's say from India, or I was working with a lot of people in Venezuela actually, where I could get a website done for $200-300, and I'll charge a client $1,000. And all I had to do is be that inner communicator, make sure the job is done well, and then that basically kicked off my marketing agency, and it helped me just create all kinds of stuff to learn about the marketing world. And then that was what started Digital Age Business. Then from there, I was servicing a lot of clients. We even got to the point of servicing Fortune 500 companies. I got to work with the Secretary of Defense of Mexico. We got to do some really cool stuff. But then I realized after working with huge clients that just didn't want to listen to the things we're doing, it was just like too much communication back and forth and non-alignment that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start just launching my own companies. So from there, not only had I done little ventures here and there, I had actually pet shop right out of high school. I had 2 pet shops out of high school. We had a few different kiosks in the mall for Christmas time. One selling shoes, one selling gadgets, little helicopters, stuff like that. So I did all that stuff and everything. But then basically the marketing agency allowed me to be like, really understand more of like what's happening. So it's like, if a client needed social media, I needed to learn how to do social media. If a client needed to do media buying and figure out how to use Facebook and Instagram, I had to literally figure out, how to do these things. So it took me on an adventure of self-learning and, just figuring out how these things work so I could service these clients, that I became an all-around type of entrepreneur already. And like, it was because of these clients that were paying us money that got me to learn and just become really good, because you want the client to be happy on the other end. So if I didn't know what they wanted to do, I either hired someone through geo arbitrage that knew what it was and then started doing it myself, or I figured it out. If it was too hard, I'd hire out. And one of the things that I realized, and this is what built our agency, was that all these people that I was hiring, they didn't really know that much themselves. They just had good systems and they knew what to do. So once I learned from them, like what they were doing, I'm like, this is so easy. We don't really even need this agency, or we don't need this company. We don't need this individual. And we started doing it ourselves. So that took me down the path to creating a multitude of companies in e-commerce, including print on demand. And then we started a company called Aphrodite's, and that company basically became a pretty premier jewelry company that used something called print on demand and drop shipping. So that's one that I think a lot of people right now are starting as side ventures, new ventures, side hustles, is that they can literally have zero inventory. Okay, they have no product in-house. So when I sold one of my companies back in, I had, believe it or not, one of the companies I had was a reptile company. Bearded dragons, ball pythons, chameleons, all that stuff. I actually sold that to one of my partners, and I was actually going to go deeper into the marketing space. And then I realized I saw a webinar from a gentleman called Justin Senior on Tai Lopez. I think it was a live show that he had. Like, Facebook was a little bit different. They'll just pop up on the screen. It's like, how to make millions of dollars selling t-shirts. And I'm like, I sold t-shirts before. I want to make millions of dollars. So I clicked into it. It was a guy named Justin Senior, which I ended up becoming friends with later down the road. And what was interesting about it, it was like he was preaching on how you can sell millions of dollars worth of t-shirts and never buy a single shirt. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, the thing that I hated, another little side gig that I did was I started a company in the reptile industry that sold goods and cool merch for people in the reptile industry. And I went to a show, we sold out in 2 hours. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. But I absolutely hated that I had to go buy the shirts, figure out how many sizes, then make sure that the print is done right, that the colors are right. It was just so much work that even though I had sold out, I was just like more concentrated on my other ventures. So when I heard this new idea of print on demand and this Shopify thing that I had really not heard of, people had told me people were going towards it because we did a lot of e-commerce, but I was like, okay, I can actually just design stuff, put it on a site, sell it, and I don't have to have a single product. Boom, that's what got me going into that direction. I jumped into Shopify because of that, because there was all these cool little applications that made it super simple. I had never seen such a simple platform, because back in the days, we were using all these platforms where you had to design. You kind of needed to have a developer do a lot of this stuff. And let alone, it's kind of like an Apple iPhone, or like your phone itself, where you have little apps that you can download and they plug and play and they help you do everything. So Shopify to me was like a gold mine that I had never found before. So instead of going further, after one of my companies got acquired, I was like, you know what? Instead of going further into the marketing agency, dealing with all these clients, let me try this new thing out, which is called Shopify and print on demand drop shipping. So it was like, and the investment was not as heavy as like building an entire ecosystem. Almost in a way, like even in today's, like if you want to put numbers wise, like someone could literally start a Shopify store and do print on demand. They spent a couple $100, and what would literally have costed, like if we go back just about like 7, 8, 9 years, that literally would have costed an entrepreneur probably about 40, 50 grand to get going. You know what I mean? At the minimum would have cost them $10,000, $15,000.
So let me ask about that. If we look at today and the opportunity in side hustle, the way that I sort of see it and why we decided to create this series is we see two things, the crisis and opportunity. The crisis is inflation is squeezing people like never before. Their incomes are not keeping pace with inflation. As a result, things are really tightening up. Just getting groceries, putting gas in the car, et cetera, now becomes a burden as compared to something that was within the budget on a pretty easy basis. And people are now saying, I have to increase my income somehow. And so side hustle is one great way to do that, and maybe not only replace your income, not only add to your income, but maybe even replace it. How do you see the environment today for starting a side hustle? What do you think the opportunities are?
Yeah, I mean, when Mike was telling me about all this stuff and I heard about six-figure side hustles, automatically the name grabbed my attention because, not only have I had over 30 companies, like all these mini ventures that I've done and working with so many clients and having friends that we like to call them growth hackers, right? So like a growth hacker is just someone that figures out a loophole. It's not a real hacker, right? It's not a hacker that is hacking into systems and stuff. A growth hacker is someone that sees opportunities and these loopholes that no one has seen before. So when I heard about what you guys were doing, I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is literally my genre, just because I love the adaptability and I've been talking about this moment in time for over a decade. Okay, so I usually have the bracelet with me that says the digital revolution. Okay, so what does the digital revolution mean? I've been talking about this literally for a decade, and it's the exponential curve with how fast things are going to move technologically. So not only do we have inflation happening, not only do we have potentially the demise of the dollar, the economy is faltering, but we're having to adapt so quickly, like people haven't seen yet how fast things are going to move. So I'll give you a great example. We were just at a mastermind in Scottsdale, and one gentleman named Perry Shaw, he was basically talking about his agency. Okay, just to get perspective really quickly, he started to go AI hard. Okay, and one of the things that he was talking about is that one of his people could service 2 clients just 4 months prior to that point, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it was. Okay. He said, since the inception of utilizing artificial intelligence and these new hyper automation systems, he literally can now service better with one person, 8 people. So what does that mean? That means that 75% of people just lost their jobs, and him not only servicing those clients, but probably better. So that's just the beginning. That's just his agency. This is going to happen all around. The thing is also, because of artificial intelligence, it's also allowing people to adapt much faster and be able to learn things at a rate that has never been seen before. Just the utilization of ChatGPT, especially GPT-4, and now what they're calling is Auto GPT. You literally have a business partner, an assistant, an advisor, a business consultant, literally by your side. So right now, there has never been, in my opinion, there has never been a better time to actually be able to start a side hustle, let alone have to have a side hustle, because you don't even know if your job will be around in a little bit of time. Right. This is for entrepreneurs, people working in all kinds of businesses. Like, it is literally so disruptive that people will not be able to keep up. And this is what I love to talk about it with the exponential curve, because like we're now reaching, there's a great gentleman named Ray Kurzweil, Peter Diamandis. Actually, one of our advisors to our companies, his name is Reese Jones. They've been talking about this. One of the reasons I learned about it is through these gentlemen. And basically what happens is that we're going into an exponential curve of exponential technologies, and we are at the hockey stick curve of the alignment. So what happens is, like, we're down here, things were moving, they were moving, we're right here. And because of the exponential curve happening with artificial intelligence and all these technologies stacking on top of each other, it literally is making it so that things will be disrupted fast. And here's the thing. Now, because of all the possibility with ChatGPT, Auto GPT, all the resources at hand, it makes it super easy for us now to actually be able to start things very fast with limited amount of information and knowledge, because before you needed the experience, now you really don't need it. You have to be creative. And that's what's changing in a way that I've never seen before. And it makes me even more excited to even start my own ventures and little side hustles and such.
So let's say that I'm somebody now that has a job, but I want to start a side hustle. And I don't have much resource. As a matter of fact, I think I saw somewhere you said, like, your mission or your goal is or vision is to create value or create money from nothing, basically. I guess just using your brain, and money appears out of from nothing that existed before, right? So that's the creative process. So what advice would you give someone who's never done a side hustle? It's like been working for some amount of years at a job, worked hourly or got a paycheck, what have you, and now says, I'm ready. Either I'm motivated by aspiration or motivated by need. Necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So they're being pushed in that direction. What's the steps to getting started? What should they do first? What should they do second? Like how would you advise somebody like that?
Yeah, so someone that has never done a side hustle or even their own business, maybe they're in the corporate world, whatever it might be, the first thing I would say is definitely get yourself, I wouldn't say a mentor, but put yourself into the places of where people are doing these type of things. So there's a lot of groups in Facebook. I would say on the internet, there's many different ways that kind of starts to teach you. But one of the most important parts is like, why not do something that you really like? You know what I mean? Like if there's something that you really like, for example, an easy, as just one example, is to start an e-commerce store or do print on demand, right? So one of my friends, actually, it's so funny. So this guy is a giant guy. He actually played football. I think it was professionally, like a Samoa. And then he was telling me, this was back in my heavy e-com days. He was like, man, my store's not doing so well. Like, I'm not sure what it's doing. I'm like, oh, what kind of store is it? He's like, it's a yoga store. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yoga? I'm like, dude, you're like one of the most masculine, large, freaking football-like guys. Like, what are you doing yoga? He's like, oh, I heard that it makes money. And don't get me wrong, we can always make money from things that maybe we're not aligned with, as long as we have a bigger picture of why it's that we're doing it. That's important. But for me, I was like, dude, you love football. Why didn't you open up a e-com store for football lovers or something like that with funny quotes about football itself? Like that's more aligned, because how many of his friends is he going to go and tell? Like, I almost tell this to a lot of people because they always ask me, like, what kind of store do I start? Is it they call it a general store. A general store means a variety of products. If we're talking e-com here, and this could be so many different things, or do we do niche? And I said, I'm like, I like to do hybrids, but it should be something that you're actually proud to tell your friends. Because if you go into a side hustle that you absolutely are only doing for money, in my opinion, as soon as things get rough and things don't work, you're out. You're out, unless you're also around people that are showing you that success formula, right? So like one of the reasons when I first started in the Shopify / dropshipping world, I failed for like 6 months straight. Okay. Most people would have quit by then, maybe even longer. I don't know if it was like 8 months. So I literally failed miserably. Okay. But I had there was a Facebook group, there was friends that I made in there, and there was a mentor. Okay, so finding a mentor, you can find it in these groups. There's a lot of meetups that you could go to in local cities, which is amazing. Find an entrepreneurial group. Okay, start familiarizing yourself with it, right? Also start learning 100%. Get super familiarized with ChatGPT, AutoGPT, the ones that it's moving so fast, there'll probably be another iteration, or past GPT-4. Like start asking questions and things that you like. But a big important piece and puzzle is to get around those people, find yourself a mentor, and then simultaneously go into something that you will be actually proud to tell your friends. Like if you're actually proud to tell your friends about it, man, success will be more imminent. And when the challenges do arise and things aren't working out, you'll continue going, because that's the key. Most people just give up. And for me, those components are the most important.
So let's say I found something that I feel somewhat passionate about. Maybe it is someone who is a yogi, he's practiced yoga for a lot of years, or someone who has got a passion around baseball cards, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So and I think incidentally it's really brilliant insight to say, don't stay alone in your own head. Find a mentor, somebody that can hold you accountable and that can steer you in the right direction, as well as kind of a peer group that's trying to do similar type things, and you can share together. So I think that's great. But now, like, where do I go? Like, okay, Shopify, maybe it's a platform, but how do I drive traffic? How do I get people to come take a look at what I'm offering?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a variety of ways. One of the easiest ways for us in today's day and age, let's say if you want to send traffic to someone's offer and you want to become an affiliate, that's a side hustle right there. Let's say you want to have a Shopify store and sell your own product that you're making at home. Let's say you want to do drop shipping, you're using like Gearbubble or something like that. all that stuff said and done does nothing if you have a castle in the middle of nowhere that you're selling and nobody can get to it, right? So how to get people to find that castle? One of the easiest ways, it does cost some money, but is basically Facebook, Instagram, and one of the new ones that I like because it's so cheap is actually Twitter. Okay, Elon Musk took over Twitter and their targeting systems are very easy. You could literally pretend that you want to start a football store. You could probably find one of the actionable steps that you could do within the Twitter ad system is find another company that basically does the same exact thing, and then you could target those type of followers. Mm-hmm. And because Elon Musk is on board, I think a lot of the and not to get into politics, this is just what happened. A lot of the left was basically, they said, we're not using Twitter anymore. So he lost like half of his freaking advertisers, right? Literally. So it's like, that's why he started doing the Twitter verification. But what that did, and the growth has been going up. So if you lose half your advertisers, and then simultaneously, and I don't know what the number is, but it was a lot of people, and your growth is going up, it's only getting better. It's Elon Musk that is a freaking incredible product developer. And then basically he's building it to make it better. What's going to happen? We're in the early, in my take, and what I believe is that we're in the early days of Twitter becoming a magnificent platform for cheap acquisitions, cheap traffic to sites, and cheap ways to be able to get your product or service out there. So like those to me are some of the best. The other part is affiliates. Mm-hmm. So affiliates is a big thing. So depending on the type of product that you have, you tell whether it's people in your circles, whether it's you find other true affiliates. Like there's places like JV Zoo, for example, and there's plenty of them. You could just chat GPT this, guys. You know, I would say Google it, but nowadays it's chat GPT, and then Google can work for some of the newer stuff because as of September 21st, there's no information on chat GPT, but you basically find affiliates that will give your offer or your service or your product, and they'll take a percentage. So those percentages could range from 10%, 25%, 50%, whatever you're willing to give up, depending on the type of service. And that's a way to be able to do it too. Those are two great ones that people can drive traffic to their offer and product.
Can you give me a use case example, like somebody who, you know, basically they started, you sort of gave a part of one with your football friend, right? But maybe just like one walkthrough of either your own side hustle, saying, here was the idea, here's the first step, you know, here's what I did, and this was the outcome, or maybe somebody that you've ever, you know, mentored or coached that you think is a relevant story to this conversation.
Okay, so I'm going to give a crazy story. Okay, so this was I started actually a course, which was one of my side hustles, that basically told people how to make money through e-commerce. It was called Ecom Unleashed. Okay, this was like 2017, I think it was 2017, I believe it was. And when I launched it, you know, I was driving traffic through Facebook, Instagram, my circles. I was putting like information into like Facebook groups. And one day I get a call from a gentleman that was like, hey, I'm thinking about making a payment. It was a payment plan. I was charging about, I don't know, $1,000 or $1,200 on payment plans. And I get a call from a gentleman that basically was like, hey, I want to put a payment plan. I just wanted to know a little bit more about what you're doing. And I'm talking to him and I'm like, man, this guy sounds kind of young, you know? And I'm like, it's probably easier if you pay the $1,000 because you're going to save a couple $100. He's like, okay, I'll figure out. I'm like, by the way, I'm like, how old are you, by the way? And where are you? He's like, oh, I'm in Canada and I'm 15 years old. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. I'm like, do you have permission from your parents to do this? He's like, yes, 100%. Probably going to be using their credit card. I'm like, okay, just for clarity, let's make sure that you're using your parents' actual stuff with their permission and that they know that you're doing this because you're 15 years old, man. And he already knew a little bit about e-com. He already knew a little bit about e-com and driving traffic. And as time goes on, I ended up doing, and this shows you a lot about entrepreneurship, right? The only person, I did a lot of calls after I sold this course. I did monthly calls. I'm not doing that stuff anymore, but I did monthly calls or bi-weekly calls. He was the only person that showed up to every single call. Okay. Him and one other gentleman was almost in, but he was the only person. Okay. Which was free. I added it for free. It wasn't even something to do it. So he was the audacious one that came to every call. And what ended up happening is within a short period of time, he literally started scaling his store. And every time we came on these calls, he was asking me. So he found a mentor. Now he had a peer group of people. He was in these Facebook groups and everything like that, finding out how he can do these things. He's just searching like for friends, local meetups. I don't even know if he could, if people in his school could resonate with him, because this kid was already like down a path that most adults aren't under. And as time goes on, he was like telling me they had an offer that did like $200,000-$300,000. This kid is 15 years old. And I'm like, holy smokes, like he was learning and he was listening. Okay. He found a mentor. He was listening. The second part that ended up happening from there, I talked to him about a year and a half later. Now he has an agency, still had a store. He had made $1.5 million. And he literally said that he was helping now his parents. He was helping his parents pay the bills and all the stuff going on in the house. So I was just blown away with how a 15-year-old kid could actually do this. And it's because we're in a new day and age where if you blank the mind, forget what's happened in the past, which is perfect for younger generation, right? And he actually listened to the things that I had put down for him, just like any other mentor could do for other people, and at least a guideline. And there's a lot of people putting out these courses out there. And if you listen to someone that actually has a success, you can make sure that they've actually done it in a shorter period of time, and then have that peer group to ask the questions. Anything is possible. A 15-year-old kid could make $1.5 million in a year and a half. By the time he was 16, anybody could do it.
Well, I bet that was the best $1,000 those parents ever spent. Right? What an investment. I think one of the things that I'm teasing out of what you said, which I think is important, is how the role that desire plays. How bad do you want it? And because that's what I hear that when you tell me the kid shows up for every single call, they figures out how to get his parents to lend them money, etc. Because so often I have people say, "Oh yeah, I want it so bad, I want to be successful so bad," and they can't even get up in the morning. In other words, it's like they're hitting the snooze alarm rather than getting up at the time they know they need to put in the hours they need to get to achieve the result. And they say to me, "But I want it so bad." I'm like, "No, you don't. Otherwise, you'd be up. You'd be up an hour earlier, and you'd be on it. You don't want it bad enough yet, and when you want it bad enough, you're not gonna be getting up late every day." So, did you see it that way?
Yeah. And I'll give you my take. So 100%, there's a lot of people that they just aren't inspired enough to do it. But let me add something very important to that. So there's a gentleman named Dr. DeMartini, and he talks about a subject called axiology. In short, it's the study of values and purpose. Mm-hmm. And if you go to school and you see a child that is literally what they would call ADD or ADHD in school, they're like, "Oh, he's not listening in class, he's not doing it," but he goes home and he'll play video games for 8 hours straight, and he'll literally know every level. He'll know every single weapon. Would you say that kid is ADD or ADHD while he's playing that video game?
Yeah, see, that's exactly.
He doesn't, right?
He obviously has the focus when he wants to apply it. Yeah.
So why is that though? Oh, because his values are completely different. So check this out. This is a really key one too. This is why I said do something that is inspiring or something that you'd be proud to tell your friends. So based on our value systems, okay, and what we truly value, all of us value different things, right? Based on what we value, if we align that with the side hustle or the work or whatever it is that we're aligned with, it'll literally take us to a whole different level where we will be organized, where we will pay attention, where we will wake up early in the morning. So the reason a lot of people, let's just say, for example, that aren't waking up early and they aren't doing it, there's a good chance that whatever it is that they're doing is not inspiring them, is not value driven, and they may have just jumped into it because of the outside injection of someone else. Mm-hmm. So you have to be very careful that you don't just see someone very successful. The only way to overcome that and do something, because I've done things that I don't like myself and I was very inspired, but it was because there was a bigger mission or there was a bigger reason that I was hungry for that I saw outside of that job task. Right. Okay, because if I saw that job task that's not inspiring and there wasn't a reason why I have to do that, to get to, like, pretend I love to travel. That's a huge value for me. If I know that whatever it is that I'm doing is going to help me travel, I'm going to do that a little bit more. So sometimes we got to think of the bigger picture at hand, and that helps us get to the other side and become a little bit more inspired and not, like wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh, great, I got to do this again." But it's like, okay, if I do my job really well, or if I get extra sales, or if I figure out this business, man, I could go to that trip to Tahiti. Right. Or, you know what? Oh, I could spend more time with my family and take them to that trip to Disney. Whatever the values of that person is, And that right there, based on axiology, is a game changer, and it changes the way that we see the world around us.
Yeah, I think that's really important insight, is understanding the relationship between values and purpose, and kind of answers the question, what drives you, right? And I think a lot of people, I've been at this for decades, right? So I'm at choice in my life. I can really just choose, what I want to do, if I want to get up in the morning or not, et cetera. But man, you have to look back at the decades where I was working 7 days a week, night and day, getting up early, sleeping very little, et cetera, to get to that point. And I'm not saying this for any other reason to say that that it's important, I think, to understand that there's an investment you make to get to a point where you can be at choice. And what drives you can vary. Like I said, today I'm looking at a bunch of people, especially younger people who are working salaried positions where inflation's outpaced their ability to really keep up with their bills, and they have to be driven by necessity. But to me, the mindset is, okay, you're in the predicament, but get busy and make the most of it, and get positive on it, as compared to lamenting it. Because if you start out with negative attitude, I don't think there's any future in you creating a side hustle that's going to work. So maybe a part of this, and you could maybe speak this, is the community or the group that you get in line with. That they should be there supporting each other's headspace, as compared to complaining all the time, right? I mean, who you hang out with really impacts, right?
Oh yeah. Who is around you is a key component, and the thing is, like, in today's digital age, it's not even who you're actually hanging out with. It's like, pretend someone has an Instagram account, Facebook account, WhatsApp, chats and stuff like that. So it's like, we have to be very careful of the intake, because you hit it on the nail with that. A lot of people are just victimizing themselves. Literally, we are entering into an unprecedented stage of civilization. I'm a historian too, by the way. And we're in an unprecedented stage of where society is literally, in a way, let's call it United States of America, is getting to a point where we are just victimizing ourselves like crazy. And if you go back in time, let's look at Michael Jordan, let's look at Kobe Bryant, let's look at Muhammad Ali. These guys would not complain about anything. They weren't victims to their circumstance. These guys were so powerful, they were so powerful, so influential, that they made people around them step up. Yeah. To a high degree. They would not complain at all. They weren't victims. They were so empowered, and they were so much on the other side of victimization and saying, oh, I don't have the money for this. Oh, it's my friends around me. Oh, my boss is doing this to me. Oh, you can make excuses all day long. These individuals, they help basically propel other people. So how to get around people that literally are not on the victim train, simultaneously want to get to a high place, are willing to help others and support them on that journey, and that actually are going to believe in someone's greatness, right? Imagine being around people like Michael Jordan or something. Yeah, he might have been a little crazy and really push you to the other envelope, but you're playing with Michael Jordan. He literally leveled the game up of other people. Yeah. So how do we find people like that can be in our circles, or that really believe in our greatness, to take us to that next level and get away from the victim mentality, like you were saying, because that's literally what's happening with society today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought those people up. I used to give a lecture on Muhammad Ali, about him proclaiming I am the greatest, and rather than at the beginning everybody questioning him, and rather than all the naysayers who are at lower frequency pulling him down, his frequency was so high and so strong. A little bit over time, with a little bit of performance, they started saying, well, he's pretty good. Well, maybe he's very good. He might be the greatest. It's and that's really to me it's the frequency of your consciousness that dictates that, and that is influenced by who you have around you. I can instantly see you're someone. Just as soon as you get on, as soon as you're on camera, it's like your energy's up, your frequency is high, and that other people would be drawn into that you would raise their frequency too, and I think that's an important aspect of this, because so often people say, well, what do I have to do, to succeed? Do I have to, this and then this and then this? And I'd say, you're asking the wrong question to start out. The question is, who do you need to be? That's the right question, the first question. And then once you decide who you need to be, that kind of makes what you need to do easier to find out. But that's really, I think, the core, and I think that's really what you're talking about when you talk about these great figures who have inspired people. And who you surround yourself with is really important. And literally, it was the first thing you said: get into a group, be around other people, who are on the same train, who want to get to the same destination. So it's really, really great stuff. Any final thoughts you have for people who are looking to get on this track and are ambitious to succeed?
Yeah. I mean, guys, one of the things that you want to know right now, we are in one of the most crucial times in the history of mankind. Okay. We have an economy that is drastically changing. The dollar itself is at risk of being passed by the digital yuan. Okay. There's a lot of different things that are happening in a way that has never been seen before, written history at least. Okay. And because of the influx of artificial intelligence, we now have entered into an exponential age that is literally going to shift and change so fast. So the mentality needs to completely change. Victimization, as we were talking about, needs to be subsided. And you have to be open to the possibility that you could create things in record time. Okay, because of the inception of ChatGPT, it's not ChatGPT that was the major creator of this vortex. The vortex was that all these AI systems and all these technologies and all the connection of the world and the way we became social, the way that we're interacting in a way that has never been done before and so much faster, AI became the glue to make things possible in levels we've never seen that gives opportunity to a brand new place that is literally going to change the world forever. And I see in these next couple of years how drastic those changes will be. So it's up to us now to be able to tap more into it, get very familiarized with the AI stuff, become adaptive. This is another big thing. A lot of people used to say that the people with the highest IQs are the smartest, the ones that are doing the most. That no longer is needed because we have ChatGPT and AI next to us. Okay, these virtual artificial intelligent assistants that literally have the whole internet at their disposal, let alone they're going to be thinking 100 times faster. I mean, they're thinking 1,000 times faster than we are, but simultaneously, it's going to be about AQ. Okay, AQ, EQ, adaptability quotient, emotional quotient. So it allows us to adapt very fast. So if we could get into the mode of being able to adapt, become very present. People say that it's really good to strategize and get into your head. A lot of times you just got to get present with where you're going, the direction that you're going, utilize these new technologies to your advantage. Be around the right peer of people, find yourself that mentor, and you'll be able to go off to the races way faster. And opportunity now, like me, myself, after 30 companies, I've never seen anything like this year ever. And I'm talking about exponentially higher with the amount of opportunities and the ways that you can make money, whether it's a side hustle, a new hustle that you want to do, a new business, because of the inception of all these exponential technologies, including artificial intelligence. So what I would say to everybody is, buckle down, see the vision, get inspired of where you're going, be around the right people. And this year and next year, besides a bad economy, could be your best year.
I love it. Very inspiring. And incidentally, I've been using, I've adopted ChatGPT, and I'm startled at what it can do and how it can help. And it still requires, ultimately it still requires somebody who knows how to ask the right questions. But boy, if you know how to ask the right questions, can you get content, information, et cetera, from it? And it's free. I mean, I have the paid for service, so I can use GPT-4 and get priority on the server. But nonetheless, anybody can use it free if you just have an internet connection. So it's startling, and I think it is a game changer, and it's exciting to hear someone like you who's kind of immersed in it, seeing it, witnessing what's going on, and being able to translate it to the world. So I thank you for your inspiration and your just the intelligence that you express as you're starting to piece this together for people so that they can create a better lives for themselves. So thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you guys for putting this together to help a lot of people, because this is highly necessary in these new times that we're entering. Appreciate it, brother.
Sometimes somebody's story matters a lot when you're trying to understand your own life and your own story. And next up, I interview Iman Age, who is an immigrant that came to North America with basically nothing and had to get things figured out. And listening to his story, it had me reference myself and my own journey, and I learned things from this. And then not only does he have a story to tell about his own journey, but he has ideas for you and what you can do to create success in a side hustle. I got to tell you, a lot of people are really positively influenced by this man, so I'm happy to introduce you to him. Let's go. Iman, thanks for taking the time to be here.
Thanks for having me here.
So let's talk about your story, getting into your background a little bit. How did you become an entrepreneur? What kind of challenges did you have getting started?
I feel like I was an entrepreneur from when I was 9 years old, maybe a little bit younger. And I realized that because I was too lazy to want to go shopping for my mom. We were living in a place that was up the hill, and my mom always used to cook stuff, and at the very last minute remember, oh, I'm missing tomato paste, or I'm missing this thing and that thing, right? But already the food was cooking, like it was halfway through. And then she would come to me and she was like, hey, like, can you go and get me tomato paste? And then I had to go down the hill, get things, and then walk up, right? For like 25 minutes. And I was like, this doesn't work for me, like, right? But I was like, okay, what if I actually go and get stuff that I know that she needs on short notice, and keep them in my closet, right? And then when she comes to me, I was like, well, we have two options. You can get something from me that I have in my closet, with a little bit markup, or I can walk down there and get things. And I knew that she was always in rush, right? So
you started out selling your own mother? Wow.
Well, but here's the thing. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, I identified the need, I identified the urgency of the need, right? And although I was the one who was going to do the work, right? But I was like giving her options, right? You can get this for like $10, or I can go and get it and you pay the $7. Right? And kind of like started from there. But the reason I'm actually bringing that up is because I feel entrepreneurship is something that is a way of living and thinking. It's not just a person wakes up and says, I want to make millions of dollars, so let's go become an entrepreneur. It's something that the person either develops over time or the person has it from the very, very young age. I think many entrepreneurs that I talk to, they started doing something when they were 5 years old, 6 years old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, right? They had a lemonade stand, that they were doing something that they were turning a need, any type of need, into something that they could get paid for. And depending on their situation, that was so. The very first company, though, I registered it when I was 18 years old.
Well, let me just ask, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Tehran, Iran.
In Tehran, and when did you move to North America?
I moved to North America when I was 25 years old. So my first company was in Tehran, Iran.
I was in Tehran, okay.
Yeah, I was in Tehran, Iran. It was on my 18th birthday. Usually in Iran, people go and get their driver's license. I went and registered a company. That's the first day that I could actually legally register a company. And so I went and registered the company, and that was my first company. And it went awfully bad, like awfully bad, right? I lost everything because I had inherited some money, and I lost everything in 3 months in that company. And then the next day I started my second company. And
so don't go so fast there, because how do you shake that off? You inherit some money. You decide, you said you were 15?
I was 18.
18, rather. Yeah, you're 18. You decide that you're going to start a company, and you take this money and you lose it in months.
Yep.
And what was it inside you that says, well, I guess I'll just start another one?
Because what was the other choice?
Getting a job, just not even in your mind to do so.
Yeah. You see, that's the thing. Sometimes you just so unemployable that you don't even see that as an option, right? For me, the way that I think is how to change the systems, how to look at things that are not working properly and rearrange them in the way that they work better, right? So, if I go to a job and they say, okay, here is what we do. all I'm thinking about how we can do this better, right? And then how we change things. And then when you're new in a company, nobody wants you to change anything. And then in my brain, I'm like, well, let's change this, and I'm not willing to do stupid things for you to get my trust. And then 4 months later, you want to trust me enough to change the systems. Let's change it, right? So I'm absolutely unemployable, like absolutely unemployable.
And you figured it out at 18.
Oh yeah, I knew that. I knew that when I was 18, right? I had a job, kind of a job, when I was 16 years old, and it was in my dad's company, and even then, like at that like very basic thing, I just needed to change everything and rearrange them and make it work better, and I was like, you know what? If I need to jump through so many hoops to do things in a more effective way, I just don't want to waste my time here. But with that part, actually, there was one piece. When I lost everything, that night, I got lucky because one of my dad's friends just very randomly came and knocked on our door and said, you know, do you want to come and grab a coffee with me and just let's have a conversation, let's see what you're up to, right? So I went and had a conversation with him, and I said, I closed my company today. And I said, why? And I said, well, because I lost everything. And he said, well, do you want to have a company? And I said, yeah, I want to have my own business. And he said, well, I'm happy to mentor you to teach you how to do it. And I said, well, I don't have any money. I said, having a business has nothing to do with having money. Having a business has to do with making money. If you are willing to do what it takes, I'm willing to show you how to run a business profitably. And so he took my hand and helped me to build the business from scratch. And I built that company and sold the equity in the company when I was 23. And then I decided to become a marketing consultant.
Well, this becomes interesting. So what did the first company do, just out of curiosity, the one that failed?
We were producing industrial things.
Okay.
So anything from nuts and bolts to tractor pieces to like weird things, right? I had zero experience with that. The only reason that I went there was because there was an opportunity, and we had the expert. Like I knew people that had the expertise around me, but I had no expertise around it. The way that we lost the money actually was because we had a client that said, if you produce this for me, I'll buy a ton of it, right? So I spent a ton of money investing in R&D and creating the mold for that thing. And then when we were like, yes, we can produce this, I went to get the contract. They were like, oh, no, we're going to get it from China. And they actually never ordered a single one. So it was my lack of experience of getting contracts first, getting prepayments first, and then go create it, because it was like, well, these people want this, so let us produce it.
What did the second company do with the?
The second company was an IT company.
Okay.
So it started as a hardware company, and then we added more things to it, and then we added software to it, and network.
So
and other things.
in your particular story, how important is a mentor, right? Because so often I hear a mentor enters the picture, and that's what gets things going.
Absolutely. The mentor, here's the thing. The mentor can never promise you to succeed. But what they can give you are systems that is based on their experience. And probably as an entrepreneur, you would change those systems, but they would give you a little bit of lay of the land, a little bit of, hey, here is the way that works better, right? Here is the way that you can do things differently, right? And having that support, having that path makes huge, massive difference, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The bigger part of my story actually starts from the time that I moved to North America.
And how old were you then?
I was 25.
And what got you to want to move to North America?
So my wife at the time and I sat together one night, and we said, what do we want from our life? And I said I want to become an international professional public speaker. I was looking at people like Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Oprah. I was looking at the way that these people are building their businesses and making a massive impact in the world. And they're on the stage and they're shining and all of those things. And at the time, I was also doing public speaking. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing everything and I'm doing it at a smaller scale. I want to really get myself on the stage and bigger stages and make a difference. And so we said one of the pieces in that is that we need to be in a place that we can speak English.
Right.
So we have an extended audience. And also with an Iranian passport, it's really hard to travel because you need to get visa for many, many countries. Right. So you can't just get on an airplane and go to US. You have to apply for a visa. You may get approved, not get approved, wait for 4 to 6 months. Right, so I wanted to move to a country that I have a passport that is more powerful passport to travel with, right? And we had this opportunity to move to Canada. We could easily move to Canada, so we decided to move to Canada. And we were like literally in 7 months. We were in Vancouver, BC. Wow. And then that's where our my journey in North America started. And
because that's very disruptive too, right? I mean, you grow up in a country, right? A very different culture, and then now, I mean, again, another entrepreneurial thing to do. And I'm gonna move to a country that I maybe visited before, I don't know, but
never visited
even visited before.
No,
so
never visited.
I'm gonna just show up and we're gonna start a business, and we're gonna, it's a very daunting thing.
It was actually worse than that because we decided to move so fast and we moved so fast, I actually never got the opportunity to learn English properly. So when I landed
I assumed
here,
you probably spoke English fairly well.
No, that was one of the reasons we wanted to move, because I wanted to learn English in kind of like environment that I can learn proper English, right? Which I still can't speak proper English probably with the accent.
It's a lot better than my Farsi.
So, like when I landed, the immigration officer said, "How's it going?" And I got offended because I was like, "I'm not an it, and I'm not going anywhere. I just arrived. Like, why are you behaving with me this way?" Right? That was my level of English.
Wow.
So, like, I could say, "How are you?" and I could say, "I'm doing well," but. Like
how's
like,
it going?
How's it going? I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I just arrived. Like, what are you talking about, right? And so that was my level of English when I arrived here. And then we were hoping that our money follow us. And there was some political unrest at that time in Iran. This is an interesting thing. Not the time that I got on the airplane,
right?
But 2 days after my airplane landed. So I had some properties, and then my mom was going to sell those properties and send the money to us. And then the situation wasn't in a way that she could actually sell those properties anymore, like a couple of days later.
Wow.
So we immigrated. I had $12,000 in my pocket, thinking that I'm going to receive like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's going to be a good money for the foundation for giving us a few years, maybe a couple of years, for me to learn English and my wife to get, settled and everything else. And then 2 days later, we realized, okay, we're not going to get our money.
Wow.
So we have this $12,000 and we have to figure something out, right? And we looked at each other. We're like, okay, we have a dream. Want to bring that dream to reality. And we started working for it. And we said, okay, let's get a job, right? And we never had a job. Now, she could speak English. I couldn't speak English properly. And but she was going through school full time, right? And she was studying like this really, really, really hard course. So she had to study 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. in school, and then 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., 10 p.m. doing the homework.
Wow.
It was a very expensive course. So we were like, okay, so you continue studying, and I'll try to find a job. I don't know how many resumes I dropped off, but 2009 was right after 2008 recession, and there were tens of thousands of people out of work. Everybody was qualified, everybody could speak English.
And they spoke English.
Everybody had like connections and everything else. And so I just wasn't able to even land a single interview.
Wow.
And we got to this point that we were 17 days away from becoming homeless. And that day I woke up and, that I realized that second what it means that when people say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But when you are in it, you don't realize it. That morning, like 17 days away from becoming homeless, I woke up and I really realized, it was like, wait a second. For the past 11 months, I've been looking for a job, one after another. I've been dropping off resumes as janitor, as cashier, as everything. And I'm not getting a single job interview. Who says that in the next 17 days, I'm going to get an interview, I'm going to get the job, and I'm going to get paid?
Yeah, right?
That is the definition of insanity, like doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But when you're in it, you don't see it that way. You're like, I don't have a job, I really need to get a job. So you're applying for one job after another, hoping to get a job, right? And then that morning, I was like, okay, here's the thing. We are already homeless, and we don't know it yet. Because this paycheck is not going to come in the next 17 days. We're not going to have the money to pay the rent. We cannot do anything else, right? And that day I said, okay, I'm going to start my own business. And I decided to start a web design business. Now, there are so many things with that. One is that I'm not a visual person. I had no idea how to design a website. The only thing I knew is how websites work. I have MBA in online business. So I knew how websites work. I knew how to increase the sales of a company by a website.
Right.
But I had no idea how to design a website, right?
Or program it.
Or program it. I had no idea about that, right? I just knew that, if you give me a website, I can draw it for you and say, change your website to this.
Right.
And it's going to increase your sales, right?
Right.
But I didn't know how to design and program anything like that. But I was like, okay, so this is something I can sell, right? And then that day, I decided to go get a haircut. And what does your hairdresser ask you when they see you for the first time, right? They're like, well, the first question is who cut your hair last time, right? But then the second question was what do you do, right? And I said, I help people to increase their sales from the internet. Right.
As of this morning.
It didn't matter, right? I'm like, well, that's what I do, right? And so he looked at me and was like, well, can you explain it? And I had no idea what to explain, right? I'm like, I can't explain it here. When you're finished, then I can explain to you. We go to cashier, get a pen and paper from you, and I'll explain it to you, right? And I started thinking, it's okay, so how am I going to explain this? Because what do I want to do, right?
Right.
So anyways, he finished cutting my hair 20 minutes later, and then we go to the cashier, I get a pen and paper from him, and I start interviewing him as if he's an actual client. I'm like, well, so what's your unique selling proposition? Why people want to come to you, like this and that? What are the best-selling products that you have here? How do you make money? And then as he was talking, I drew his website for him on a piece of paper. I turned it back toward him. I said, if you design this website, it will increase your sales. And he looked at it and said, you don't know this about me, but I'm a very, very connected person, and I love online marketing. I know most online marketers in this city, and not a single person was able to explain this to me the way you explained this to me.
Well.
I was like, yes, he's going to buy a website, right? And he didn't. And he was like, well, give me, I don't remember how much the haircut was, but I remember that I chose the cheapest haircut in the area, right?
Right.
The cheapest haircuts, right? 3 days later, he called me and said, Iman, I have a person here that has been trying to sell her stuff online for the last 3 years, and she hasn't been able to do it. Can you talk to her right now? And I said, sure. So he passed the phone to her, and she said, well, I have time right now. Can we go grab a coffee if you're around? I'm like, yeah, I'm around. So we went and grabbed the coffee, and she wrote me an $1,800 check.
Wow.
To design a website for her to increase her sales from internet. And that money literally paid for the rent of the month and bought us food. And then I was like, okay, now we are in this. And from the next day, I started going to networking events, and I'm an extreme introvert. I'm an extreme introvert. So I started learning like how as an introvert go to networking events and meet with people and connect with them, right? And I would go to networking events and book appointments to talk to people about how they can increase their sales from the internet. So there was this place at 550 Broad Street in Vancouver. There's a Blends coffee shop in that area, like in that address, and it started being Iman's office. 9 a.m. every single day I was there, and I had appointments back to back, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. Like back to back, I would meet people from 9 to 5 or 6, and then at 5 or 6, I would get up, would go to a networking event, 6 to 9, and find people for the next day appointments. And then at 9 p.m., I would go back home, have dinner, and then start learning web design and start designing things that I just sold. And from 10 p.m. to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., I would just learn web design and would deliver and design the things that I'd promised. And that's how I learned the web design and started like growing the company. And a few months later, like took that company to a 6-figure business and was able at that point to afford hiring team members and sales team and other things. And so that's how I built that web design company back in 2010, 2011.
There's so many lessons in it, right? I mean, your back was against the wall. You're, as you said, 17 days or whatever from homelessness. And it finally occurs to you, it's actually, we're homeless now. We just haven't gotten the eviction notice. But you have to do something different, and I think that's kind of important, right? And perseverance is sort of this weird thing, because in some respects perseverance is a virtue, in others it's not. You might say, well, I'm going to keep going on giving resumes out and keep trying to do what I've been doing, and that would have been the wrong idea, right? The right idea was say, I got to completely go out and do something differently. So that company obviously grew and succeeded. Where did that lead you? What kind of work are you doing now?
Okay, so you said something interesting. So that company grew and succeeded. That company grew, but succeeded is what I learned next. Because the word success is very subjective.
Indeed.
So here's what happened. As I was building that company, one morning I woke up and I was bleeding internally. And I was rushed to the hospital, and doctors realized I've lost 60% of my blood.
Wow.
In a matter of a very short time. And when you lose more than 30% of your blood, you're at high risk of stroke and death. And I lost 60%. I lost so much blood that they couldn't even perform a surgery on me to stop the bleeding, because they didn't have enough blood to survive the surgery. So they said, we can start giving you blood transfusion, but we can't do anything until your blood level comes higher, so we can perform a surgery. So good luck, because we don't know how fast you're bleeding, and if the blood that we're giving you is faster than blood that you're losing. So in a matter of a few hours, I found myself on my deathbed, waiting there to see if I'm gonna have the stroke and die, or if I'm gonna survive this, and then they can save my life. And as I was lying on my deathbed, I started thinking about what happens at my funeral tomorrow. And how people are gonna remember me. And I realized that people are gonna come to my funeral and say Iman was a nice guy. And I hated that. That second, I realized to that point of my life I was alive, but I never lived. I never lived through to my heart. I never lived through to what I actually wanted to do. And I was like, I don't want to die a nice guy. I don't want people to come to my funeral and say Iman was a web designer, he was a nice guy. I want people to come there and say Iman made a huge impact in my life. This guy changed my life. And I was like, so why aren't you living that? Why are you stuck with this web design company that is making you money but is not letting you live your true life?
So you obviously survived.
I survived.
So what did you do after? So you had the realization. What did you change?
So that was the third question I actually asked myself on my deathbed. I said, well, what would you change if you get a second chance, right? And I said, if I get a second chance, I'll make a life purpose for myself and I'll live true to that. And the night before my 27th birthday, I was released from the hospital. So that was like a birthday gift to me. Like that was the most amazing birthday gift. Like, it was like, your birthday gift is the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap, okay. Like, I actually am getting the rest of my life as a birthday gift here. And like every single day of this is an opportunity, is a gift. Which, I mean, couldn't happen more perfectly than that, right? And I said, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I wanna make a difference in the lives of 100 million people before I die. And I said, well, how do you wanna do it? And I said, I don't care about the fame of it, but I care about the impact of it. And I'm good at one thing. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at teaching people and showing people how to do marketing. And marketing is like an amplifier. You add marketing to something good, you create more good. You add marketing to something that's bad, you create more bad. Right? And I was like, okay, so who do you want to work with? Because you can add your marketing to anything you want, right? And you can create more of that, right? And I looked at different things. I said, like, who are you passionate about? Who do you love to work with every single day? If you work with them 24/7, if you have these people as your friends and the family members, people that you have in your home, all of those things, who would you still be passionate and excited? Right? I said, I really love working with coaches, authors, speakers, therapists, like people who are working at behavioral changes in people. And people who are helping them with overcoming addiction, people who are helping people with living a healthier life, people who are working with people on, things that make a massive difference. So I said, okay, so why don't you create something that helps these people to amplify what they do? And I started doing that. And this is an interesting thing. There's this thing that is called the gifts. Like every single one of us are born with gifts. And the reason that they're called gifts is because you're really good at doing them for others,
Right.
but you're not good at using them for yourself. And that's why we call them gifts. So for example, like you go to a party and you see everything is messy and you stand up and you start like cleaning up and taking everything to the kitchen. And people look at you and are like, oh my God, like your home is totally clean and you know that your home is a mess.
Right.
But every time you go to a party, you help people to clean. And you wonder, you're like, why can't I do this for myself? Because you have a gift of service. You see something that is a service for others, you can do it for them, but you cannot do it for yourself. Some people have gift of teaching. They're really good at teaching others something, but they cannot use it for themselves. And then that causes imposter syndrome. Because people are like, oh, I cannot teach this, I cannot work with people on this, because I haven't done it for myself, right? But you have the gift of it. And this imposter syndrome, I mean, depending on what it is that you're doing and how you're marketing it, but this imposter syndrome is actually not real. Because if you think about this, the best basketball coaches in the world are not the best basketball players in the world.
Right.
You can put a team of basketball coaches against a team of basketball players. Who will win?
Right.
The players win.
Sure.
But then who are coaching these players are the coaches, right? So we all know this, that to be a good coach, to be a good trainer, you don't need to actually be the best at implementing it. You need to be the best at doing
Coaching
it.
it, right.
Anyways, long story short, I had the exact same things for myself. So I created this package. It was $197 and nobody bought it. And I was like, how can I not sell this, right? And I created a $97 package and nobody bought it. And I was like, okay, I really need to learn how to do this. Now I'm selling hundreds of thousands of dollars in web design,
Yeah.
but I can't sell a $97 program that teaches people how to market themselves. That doesn't make any sense, right?
You couldn't market your own program.
I couldn't market my own
But you can market
program.
other people's businesses.
Right.
Right.
I could totally market other people's businesses. I was helping everybody, but I couldn't market my own program. So I decided to teach this class for free for 8 weeks. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get 8 people to come to my class for 8 weeks
Right.
and teach them my online marketing knowledge and just see what happens, see what they want to learn, see what's the result of it, right? But here's an interesting thing. Knowledge doesn't change people's lives. Knowledge mixed with accountability and support and the resources that a person has
Right.
behind them make a difference. So when I started working with these 8 people, they got my knowledge and they implemented it based on the resources they had. And I had this guy in my class that the biggest class that he had done ever was like 12 people. And then he added my marketing knowledge to it. And in 8 weeks, he put together a 534 people event.
Wow.
He went from 12 people to 534 people. And 137 of them purchased his program. So his life changed.
Right.
But it all started from me wanting to give the value and let's see what happens. And I think that's the real core of entrepreneurship. When I go back to my web design days, when I didn't know how to design a website, one of the things I did, I was going through a class. It was an entrepreneurial class, which, by the way, they didn't want to let me in that class because they said we don't think you're going to succeed as an entrepreneur. You should go get a job, right? And I fought really hard to go to this class that was funded by the government. So they didn't even want to allow me in a government-funded program because they said, we don't see a way for you to succeed.
They didn't
right?
think you had it. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, no, let me actually, if I qualify for it, let me go for it, right? So in this class, I stood up and I said, if anyone wants a website in the next 30 days, if you give me the content in the next 30 days, I'll design your website for free. So in 30 days, out of the 10, 8 people gave me their content and I designed their website, which became the samples of my job.
Right.
Here's the thing. One of those people, and I always laugh about this, at this point of my life, right? Because one of the people, to say thank you to me, took me to a restaurant and bought me a burger. And I always laugh at this. I'm like, I designed a website for a burger. I practically, when I started my business, I designed a website for a burger.
Right.
It was a $16 burger. And still I designed a website for a burger, you know? But that gave me a sample of job, that gave me an opportunity to learn how to design a website, that gave me an opportunity to talk to people, that gave me a testimonial. Many newer entrepreneurs just stand back and they're waiting for everything to go based on their plan.
Right.
But then when I look at my career, all the companies that I've built, all of them, we started from scratch. All of them, we built them with challenges. And in every single one of them, the biggest thing that I can say that we did, or I did, depending on the company, we looked at the biggest problem that was there, and we asked ourselves one question. What's a massive radical action that we can take against this problem? So when I started my web design company, I knew that I don't have samples of job and testimonials. So the massive radical action was design 10 websites as fast as you can. So you have samples of jobs and you've learned how to design a website and have testimonials.
Right, to get it all seated. So given all this and given your own story, are you fulfilled now? Do you feel like if you're on your, God forbid, on your deathbed again at some point in the future, are you going to feel better about the answers to your questions?
Absolutely. So In my TEDx talk, I actually talk about this concept of living a life with no regrets. And I ask myself quite often, if I end up on my deathbed, is there anything that I would regret? And if there is anything on that list, I'll do everything in my power to change it. I do everything in my power to change it.
So the practice is to make sure that you're constantly asking the question, and then you can change whatever it is along the way rather than wait till it's too late.
Exactly. Because lots of people say, do I regret anything? And they are thinking a lot, like really materialistically.
Yes.
The essence of that question is related to living true to your heart. If it comes to living true to your heart, and today's your last day in this planet, would you regret anything? Was there anything that was true to your heart that you always wanted to do and you didn't? And I feel like that puts you on different journeys in life. Like for me, at one point, it was creating success, right? And then after that, it was happiness. And then after that, actually it was success, and then it was fulfillment. Like I created success, financial success, other things. But I'm like, but are you fulfilled? And I'm like, no, I'm not fulfilled. This is an interesting thing. So fulfillment, from my point of view, is when you are doing things that you're meant to do in the world every day. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you are living a happy life. There is a chance that your work is giving you that fulfillment, but you step out of that work, and then you suddenly have lots of other issues. So there are many things that we have in our life that can block our happiness. So many people, including myself from time to time in my life, have used work as a way to run away from things that stop me from happiness.
Right.
You know, and sometimes even our work isn't a solution to our happiness, right? So you can be totally fulfilled but not happy.
Yeah.
And the majority of times, many people talk about like being successful, and then they're like, many people have been successful and say, well, we're successful but not fulfilled. But there were actually a couple of times in my life that I was successful and fulfilled, but I wasn't happy. And that happiness came from different things, and lack of happiness came from different things, right?
Can you give me an example, like something that brought happiness, or a thing that you did that brought happiness when you felt like you didn't have enough?
Yeah. So one of the things for me, for example, was living true to who I was based on the things that I felt. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation, if you share your true feelings, you're being judged in the ways that you don't want to be judged. And then you are like, okay, so I'm gonna not share it. And every day, that becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger issue. But when you are so concerned about your success, or when you're so concerned about fulfillment, maybe you're too busy to actually really realize that. But then when you have the success and fulfillment down, and then you're like, I have done all these things in my life. I have achieved all these things. I deserve to be myself.
Right.
And yet, if I want to share this, I can't.
And that would make you unhappy.
And that stops you from being happy. You're successful, you're fulfilled, but you're not happy. You know? And it's an interesting journey, because when you go through that happiness, there is a chance you end up losing so many things that were the foundation of that success and that fulfillment.
Yeah.
But you rebuild your life again. But now this time you have the happiness, and you recreate that success, and you recreate that fulfillment. I personally feel like this is an amazing thing for us humans because we can go through all these experiences.
Yeah.
We can go through all these experiences, and when we learn to do this once, we can recreate them for the second time and the third time and the fourth time. I used to think there is a destination, and I learned there is no destination. Numbers always can grow. You have a 6-figure business, you can have a 7-figure business. You have a 7-figure business, you can have an 8-figure company. You have an 8-figure company, you can have a 9-figure company, and so on and so forth. Right. And the number of, and how many figures you have in your company, 7, 8, 9, makes zero impact in your happiness, right? Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes people say, it doesn't matter like what you're driving. If you are unhappy, you're unhappy. And people say, I can be crying in a Hyundai, or I can be crying in a Ferrari. Mm-hmm. I prefer to cry in a Ferrari.
Right. Yeah.
And I tell you, even if you're crying in a Ferrari, you're still crying.
Yeah, it's a good point. Because the old adage, money can't buy you happiness, but sure makes misery a lot better.
Yeah.
But to your point, I guess you're saying you're still miserable. So it's not like it's okay.
I remember one of the worst days of my life was when I was in a really good hotel in Vegas, in one of the best suites in that hotel. Mm-hmm. I was laying on the bed, and I didn't even want to leave the hotel room. Mm. And it didn't matter for me at that point if I was in that bed, in that suite. I don't remember even how much it cost a night, but like thousands of dollars a night it cost. And it really didn't matter if I was there or if I was in a tent.
It almost could be that it amplifies it, right? It's like because you're almost like sitting there saying, here I am in this, big suite, that I should be enjoying, and I can't enjoy it. It almost makes it worse in some respects. I'd imagine, that saying that, hey, if you're in a tent in nature, maybe you'd connect somehow.
Actually, last year in 2021, mm-hmm. I got on my bicycle. Mm. I shrunk my life. So everything that I need in life just fits on a bicycle.
Wow.
And rode that bike from Seattle all the way to San Diego from Pacific Coast Highway. No 2,000 miles.
Wow.
I'm 270 pounds. Mm. With 270 pounds and not being ready to ride my bike.
What caused you to do that?
It was easier to be on a bike than and just have those things around me than dealing with the feelings that I was feeling in a multi-million-dollar house that I was living in. That bike felt more comfortable than living in a multi-million-dollar house and driving a luxury car and all of those things.
Wow.
Had a tent and slept on campgrounds. And at one point of this, actually, I was like, I'm gonna do this for a physical challenge. And it became just much, much bigger than that, Mm-hmm. At one point of this thing, I actually fell and hit the ground face first.
Ooh.
And broke a tooth, dislocated my nose, got a hairline fracture to my left wrist. And a cop came and was looking at me and was like, do you want me to call you an ambulance? And I said, what does the ambulance want to do for me right now? Mm-hmm. And he was like, I don't know, take you to a hospital. I was like, so to do what exactly? I had the scraped knees, and I got a bandaged my scraped knees. I put a bandage around my wrist, asked the cop, because my wheel had turned a little bit, so I asked the cop to fix that for me. So I unscrewed it and just can you fix this for me? Because I can't do that because my wrist is broken. So he fixed that for me and put my nose back in its place right there on the side of the road and sat on the bike and continued riding the bike.
Wow.
And I always think about that why, right? I was thinking, well, because if I had stopped wouldn't mean anything. Like, what did they want to do? They wanted to take me to the hospital, and they leave the bike on the side of the road. They couldn't take the bike, right?
Right.
And that bike was all I had, kind of in a way. Like, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank account, but that bike meant more to me than anything else. I wanted to continue riding the bike because I was safer, I was more comfortable on that bike than being anywhere else.
So you kept going.
I kept
and then
going.
you went to San Diego?
I made it to San Diego. Yeah, I made it to San Diego.
So how did your life change after doing something like that?
Well, my life changed actually drastically. In the middle of that bike ride, I actually asked my wife to separate, went through a divorce, and so many other things. But this is an interesting thing, Patrick, because we're talking about entrepreneurship. I actually always wanted to know, as entrepreneurs, what's the equivalent feeling of the hardship that an entrepreneur feels if you want to compare it physically, right? Because I knew that I have gone through so many hardships as an entrepreneur, and I never had felt that amount of hardship physically, right? But then during that bike ride, actually I figured it out. And I'll tell you what it was. So the day that I fell and broke my tooth, got a hairline fracture to my wrist, both knees scraped, dislocated nose, all of those things. I always started riding my bike with empty stomach because I didn't want to eat and then ride, right? So, and that day I was riding through Big Sur, 100 miles.
Wow.
It's called the Century Ride. It's a Century Ride, it's 100 miles through Big Sur. About 5,700 feet going up and 5,700 feet coming down. There are two mountains there. Anyways, now I fell right before my lunch. So I started at 8 a.m. And I fell around noon, which I had ridden bike about 50 miles at that point. And I fell. So I was hungry, and I broke my tooth and got a blue to my face. So after I continued riding my bike, I went to eat a little piece of food, and I realized I can't. I can't eat, right? Because my front teeth were broken. And I continued riding the bike for another 50 miles with a broken wrist. And it started getting cold.
Yeah.
And it got colder and colder and colder. And I went to get my gloves. I realized when I fell down, my gloves also fell. But because I also had a fractured wrist, I couldn't open my bag to get my warm clothes out of the bag. So I was riding with a short and a t-shirt. It was about 44 degrees.
Oh.
And with all of those things, I was still riding the bike. And I was like, nah, entrepreneurship is harder than this. I honestly felt like I have done things in entrepreneurship that was harder than that. And then it became dark. And at that point, I realized this is the equivalent to the hardship that we experience as an entrepreneur. At any given second, we don't know who is going to hit us from the back. We also don't know where we are heading. I could only see 10 feet ahead. And I'm riding on this side of this road, and I have this flickering light right in front of the bike. And my wrist is tired. One is broken, one is tired. And the knees are scraped. And I'm like, yeah.
And you're still going.
And I still went. Right? I'm like, what would I do? What would I do? Stand by the side of the road, so what? Right? The only way was getting myself to the hotel and hope that the hotel has soup for me to eat. Because I couldn't eat solid food.
Wow.
And I got myself to the hotel. And the hotel had soup. So they looked at me. The hotel people at the hotel looked at me. When I was bloody, like I was bloody everywhere, right? Because my nose was bleeding, like my hand, my knees, everywhere was bloody. And they looked at me And they're like, what can we do for you? I'm just, give me soup. Just give me soup. And I think I got 2 bowls of soup that night and just went and got a hot shower. And everywhere was burning, like everywhere. My face, my nose, my chin, because I kind of scraped my chin as well. And then re-bandaged myself. And I went to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but I slept a lot. And then that day I rested. And then the next day I had to ride another 70 miles, I think, to get myself to a city that had a dentist. I could go to the dentist to fix my teeth and then fix my hand and fix everything else. But
so let's summarize all this. So, because your life, at least up to this point, as an entrepreneur, starting with your first experience being a failure, then getting a mentor and figuring some things out, then moving to a foreign country, and then, again, I think your metaphor about saying, you don't know if somebody's going to hit you from the back, there's political unrest, and, that's your properties aren't going to sell and be able to get you the money. That's getting hit from the back, right? But somehow you got to keep going.
Yeah.
And
I went in day-to-day of the business. Like, when the pandemic hit, it was like hitting from the back. Like somebody just hit you from the back. Many people, many restaurants lost everything.
They lost everything.
Overnight.
Right.
Like, when you are an entrepreneur, you wake up one day and there is a chance of something coming at you, right?
Yeah.
It's just the way that it is.
But in the end, it's about getting to fulfillment, getting to happiness, right? And certainly if you're in survival, financially, you got to get past that, so you can work on these other things, right?
Exactly.
And, so now here you are this many years in and asking yourself the question, about, do I have regrets right now or do I not have regrets?
Yeah.
So summing it all up, now you're the person that can be or is the mentor, I'm sure, to other entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
How do you frame this up for them and saying, if I'm going to mentor you, here's the things that I care about?
Well, the biggest thing for me is knowing your life purpose and knowing that you're living a life through to your purpose.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I never look at sales as sales. I always look at it as an invitation. The programs, the packages, everything that you have, everything that you offer is something that can make an impact in people's lives. And you are inviting people to work with you to make that impact. You're going to work 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 hours a day. You might as well do it on something that fulfills you.
Yeah.
You might as well do it on something that is aligned with your life purpose and what you want to create in this world. And you want to work with people that you're passionate to work with. No? If you're hanging out with the people that you work with from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then at 10 p.m. you want to go for a walk, and one of those people says, can I come for a walk with you? You don't think, oh, I'm tired of looking at these people's faces.
Right.
You say, I would love to.
Yeah, I've had it both ways, I know, yes.
Right? It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Now, you might be an introvert and say, hey, I need a little bit of time to myself, and not want to walk, not because you don't like this person or these people, but you love the people that you work with. You love the impact that you're making in the world, and you are living true to your heart every single day. And that's the important thing, right?
I think that's great advice. Well, I very much appreciate you coming here and openly, sharing your own story and your own thoughts and what you've understood about your life as an entrepreneur and how it might impact other people who are watching us right now. So I appreciate you making this trip and being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad being here. Thank you very much for this interview. Not lots of people talk about this side of entrepreneurship. I already talk about, the multi-million-dollar houses and the cars and everything else, which, that also is part of this life, But also, many people who had all of those things could lose them overnight, and have lost them overnight, and rebuilt it, and did it better, and with better results, with being more aligned. And
Yeah, and they got to learn who they were without the car in the house.
exactly.
Yeah, which is
Exactly.
important.
It's not about destination. It's about the journey and enjoying the journey and knowing that if you were not doing this, you were doing something. Might as well you enjoy the journey that you chose to follow.
Up next, you probably know, right? It's Elliot Rowe, excited that he's here to continue to get you to evolve and emerge and to become successful. That's what Elliot does, and he does it in a way like nobody else does. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, my name's Elliot Rowe. I'm a mindset and performance coach. I help high performers work on their mindset so they can perform at their best when it matters the most. Today we're going to be doing a hypnotherapy exercise to help you overcome procrastination. So it's going to be a short state change exercise to show you that you have the potential in your mind to make these big shifts in just a small amount of time. If you're going to join in with this exercise, just make sure that you're not driving a car or operating machinery, that you're somewhere comfortable that you can relax completely. And now I'd like to just close your eyes and keep them closed for the rest of this session as you take in a deep breath. And as you exhale, just allow yourself to relax. Take another deep breath now. Slowly exhale, releasing any stress, any tension from your body. With each breath that you take, sinking deeper relaxed, focusing in on the sound of my voice. All other sounds relaxing you further, relaxing you deeper. Just start to notice the top of your head and use the power of your mind to relax and release any tension that's stored there. See that relaxation as a color or feeling it as a warmth. Allow it to slowly spread down now, through your forehead and eyelids, and down through your cheeks, just smoothing the skin of your face as it goes. Relaxing your mouth and jaw, your neck and shoulders, through your arms to the tips of your fingers and thumbs. Relaxing your chest now, and as you relax your chest, allowing your breathing to slow, your heart rate to slow, down your back and spine, thighs and knees, through your shins to the tips of your toes. Your whole body just so comfortable, just so relaxed. And now start counting backwards in your mind from 300. After each number, repeating the word relax. 300, relax. 299, relax. 298, relax. Just counting these numbers down. Each number that passes sinking heavier, sinking deeper. And then taking control and slowing this count. And as you slow this count, your breathing can slow. Your body can slow. Ticking over like a perfectly maintained machine. So calm, relaxed and tranquil, that you can stop this count completely and enjoy this time that's just for you. And I'd like you to find yourself at the top of a warm, softly lit staircase of 10 steps. Make it vivid. Make it real. And I'm going to count you down from 10 to 0. With each number I count, taking a step down that staircase into deeper levels of relaxation and calm. 10, first step down now, no need to hurry. 9, sinking deeper relaxed. 8. 7, doubling this sensation. 6. 5, halfway down now. 4. 3, deeper still now, and still deeper. 2. 1, just one more step to go. To 0, totally relaxed and totally calm. And from this place of relaxation, I'd like your mind to start to drift. Allowing your mind to drift. Drifting over your plans, drifting over the things you know you need to get done, but they just keep getting put to the back of the list. Just that list of tasks that gets longer and longer. And I'd like to start being honest with yourself now. How many of those tasks that you put to the back of the list, are actually very important for you to do? How often are those highest leverage tasks the ones that you put to the back of the list? And I'd like you to ask the question, why? What are you afraid of? What's holding you back? And just start to get some clarity in your mind. Many people hold those important tasks back because they're afraid. They're afraid because if they do those tasks, they don't have an excuse if they fail. By putting those things back, they're holding on to an excuse. And I'd like to ask yourself, is that what's happening with you? Are you giving yourself an out? Are you giving yourself an excuse to fail? And just playing through this in your mind and looking in from the outside, as if you were a consultant for your business, as if you were being paid to make the business as efficient as it could possibly be. And as you view it from this direction, what stands out to you? What do you see? What truths do you show yourself? And as you show yourself those truths, I'd like you to make a commitment, making a decision to make a change. And as you make that commitment, you make that decision to make a change, starting to notice that things can be easier, things can be better. Those important tasks can be done. And every time you tick one of those important tasks off your list, you can smile. You can feel a level of success. You can see that this is what will drive you forward. This is what can make the change in your business. Just starting to feel that change now as you get such a sense of fulfillment each and every time you complete one of those tasks. Just smile as you make that decision to make this change. Smile as you allow your life to become easier than it ever was. Just seeing yourself as a motivated, confident person who's driving themselves forward. Just feeling that through every muscle, every cell of your body now, just understanding this shift, this change, and making the decision to bring all of that back with you now as I count you up from 1 to 5 now. 1, 2, coming up now, 3, 4, and 5. Open your eyes, feeling great. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed that experience, and it's now time to let go of those excuses, get those tasks down on your list, and see the impact that it has on your life. If you're interested in doing more of these types of exercises, check out my app, Primed Mind. It's on the iPhone, or you can find it on Google Android. I'll talk to you all soon.
A key component to the success of any business is marketing. And a key component to the success of marketing is copywriting. In this interview with Laura Catella Georgi, Christy interviews her about not only entrepreneurism, but copywriting and how copywriting can be transformative to your life and success. It might be a career path for you. Let's dive in.
Laura, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So tell me about yourself and your businesses.
Absolutely. My primary business is copywriting and mentoring other aspiring and up-and-coming copywriters.
So how did you become a copywriter?
Well, it's a wild story. In the year 2008, I graduated from college. I thought I would become an investment banker because I went to a fancy school in New York City. And once you graduate from there, you become an investment banker. It was 2008, though, so the economy crashed. Lehman Brothers went out of business. That caused a ripple in my school. We were terrified. And to be honest, I probably would have been a lame investment banker anyway. So I found myself Googling the phrase, how to make money online. That was probably at about 3 a.m. in the morning, by the way. And I discovered what internet marketing was. And I discovered things like search engine optimization and building a website and setting up paid advertising. And then I learned about this thing called copywriting. I had always fancied myself a writer. So when I learned that copywriting was the way to actually be a rich, potentially, writer, I was like, oh, that's the type of writer I'm going to be now. And the first piece of sales copy I ever wrote sold my own services as a copywriter. I called out the elephant in the room type of objection, you don't have experience. I said, that's right, I don't have experience, but if this piece has compelled you, take a chance on me. And I undercut everybody else in the marketplace. And overnight, I made about $600 via PayPal. And as they say, nothing was ever the same.
I love that story. But tell us more. Like, did you start working with people you knew? Like, what's next?
So that post was on a place called the Warrior Forum, which was the internet marketing forum of the day. It was very active, thousands of users on at any point in time. And there was a marketplace where designers or copywriters or assistants could offer up their services. And that's where I posted. So these weren't my friends. These were not people that I knew at all. But via the internet, I was able to connect with them, share my message, and compelled them enough to hire me. And from there, I ran a referral-based business for over 10 years, just by delivering great work, delivering it on time, and being committed to my craft.
So is that what you're doing now? Do you have a company that does it? Tell me more about what you're doing now.
Now I take on a few select partnerships. Because through all of these years in the business, you learn about so much more than just the copywriting. You learn that the traffic source has to be great, ideally. You learn that messaging across all of your platforms has to be congruent. You even learn about margins and how to make sure my customers are getting the best margins they possibly can, being as profitable as they possibly can, having the highest average order value, lifetime value that they possibly can. So with all of the extra knowledge that I've gained over the years, it just makes more sense for me to be in a partnership type of deal so that I can really offer everything. In addition to that, I train a lot of copywriters too. So not just in the art of writing copy, but in how to get great deals with clients, how to service them so that they're totally thrilled with the work, how to combat some of the mental trash and issues that we all have, but that especially come up for you at the beginning. Is this good? Am I worthy? Should I charge this much? Or should I do everything for free and struggle for years and years? And I'm here to tell them, no, don't do that.
Tell me more about that mind piece. Like you're starting out in anything almost, and you doubt yourself. Tell me how you talk us through that.
Self-doubt is inevitable, I believe. So I think if you could take a moment to observe how you're observing things and to tell yourself, this is okay. It's okay that I feel this way. And if you could potentially frame it as, because a lot of copywriters especially have this desire or obsession with success. I have to be successful in every piece I write or else I'm a fraud or I'm a failure. And so what I like to ask them is, can you fail your way to being an accomplished copywriter? Just to try to reframe that concept of failure. Because not every single piece is going to work. Things will go wrong. Or you may submit a piece to a client that never even sees the light of day. So that could be demotivating. But if you realize that it's part of the process and that it's actually a good thing because you're getting the lesson that you need to get out of it, you become so much more empowered. And take all of those experiences, but keep looking forward. Don't look backward at them. Don't try to fix them. Don't overanalyze them.
I like the don't try and fix them. Like, stop spending so much time looking back.
Yes. And there are language tricks that you could do, both your unsaid and your spoken language for that too. So one of my classic things that I trick myself with is I tell myself, I don't have time. I don't have time. I want to do this, but I don't have time. What I work on doing now is saying, I do have time, but I would prefer to be doing this with my time. Why do I think that shift is so important? Because now I have power over the situation. I am acknowledging, actually, I have just as much time as anybody else. So if I'm standing in this line, for example, where I feel like my time is being pulled from me, what can I do while I'm on this line to still make the most use out of it? I could call somebody that I've been meaning to call. I could respond to an email. I could even film a screen capture video on my phone critiquing a piece of sales copy for one of my mentees. So rather than just complaining about being in line, thinking backwards, I try to think forwards all the time.
Oh, I love that trick. I love that trick. So give us Ninja 101 copywriting. If we're new, if it's, this is our business, how do we look at copy?
I think it's best to begin with a macro approach to copy. So sit down and give yourself some of these prompts. What is the big promise that I am making to my customer? And really, that's a twofold question, because I believe that your product should make a promise, should fulfill on this promise. And I also believe that your sales copy itself, be that an about page or a product landing page or an email or a long form sales letter, what is the promise that that piece itself is making? So that people are hooked in and want to read it, so they're going to get something out of reading the material in and of itself. So that's a very important starting point.
I'm going to pause you there. Give us an example of what you mean by that. Give us an example.
An example of this type of promise could be, say you sell some sort of financial coaching or investment advice. Of course, you would promise the potential gains of that, the potential opportunity there. But something within the sales copy itself might be, I'm going to teach you the 5 mistakes other wealth advisors would never tell you about. So that there is an incentive to even read the piece, learn those 5 mistakes, and potentially feel like, oh boy, I've been taught that this is the right thing, and in fact it's wrong. Therefore, your content is differentiated, you stand apart, you've provided value, and people are more compelled to work with you.
Okay, that's the first thing.
That's the first thing. So another huge macro concept that I want people to think about more granularly, in the sense of truly write this down, the big idea, which is a stumbling block for a lot of copywriters. So I try to relate that to as if you were watching a movie. What's the premise of the movie? So in Ocean's 11, they're going to go rob like this casino. What is the big idea for your work in the sales copy itself? So that could be similar to the 5 mistakes you make. It could be the one stock tip or the one ticker that is going to see 300% gains next year. It could be that a keto diet has some incredible extra benefit that nobody else is talking about or touching upon.
Is it kind of like the movie title, the movie theme,
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
And I would just, if you were to summarize the movie to a friend in one little sentence, use that same exercise on your sales copy too, both before and after writing it. Or if you're a business owner who has received a piece of sales copy and you're like, well, I'm not sure if it's good, these are the things you have to run it through. So within the first 3 pages, you have to ask yourself, okay, what's the big idea? Am I able to define that in one sentence? What is the big promise being made here? Is that clear and identifiable? Am I hooked into where I have to keep reading? And if the answer to any of those things is no, this might sound harsh, but very often the copy has to go back to the drawing board and be worked on again. And that's common, by the way. And it's not a failure. It's just another part of the process. And the more emphasis that is put on honing in on those assets, the better the piece, regardless of being a master of the English language or using very flowery writing and all of these things that folks might be afraid of with regards to writing, they pale in significance to things like big promises, big ideas, and unique mechanisms as well, which would be a third piece.
Ooh, let's hear number 3.
Number 3 is the unique mechanism. And really, there are 3 mechanisms. So there is a mechanism to the problem, which I like to consider the unknown yet common reason why most solutions do not work. Why do most diets not work? What is that one missing piece? It could be because they restrict calories, and restricting calories is not the ultimate solution to burning fat in a sustained way. So let's say, for simplicity's sake, that is the mechanism of the problem. Then you also need a mechanism of the solution. Well, this diet has nothing to do with restricting calories or lowering your calorie intake. It's about, in fact, increasing your hormones that burn body fat. So now you have a unique mechanism of the solution. If you want to get really ninja, you could name that. So we could call it the lipo effect, something like this. And when you name it, what happens is it just sounds cool. But it's also something that now only you can give. The customer cannot get that anywhere else. It's uniquely yours. And then the third mechanism is a delivery mechanism. So how does somebody get the lipo effect? Is it in this pill? Is it in this program? Is it in this framework? And so that is my triangular approach to mechanisms.
Brilliant. So now in your business, you coach copywriters and you partner with businesses. Tell me more about kind of where you are now and what your business does now.
Now, one of my primary focuses is on training and mentoring other copywriters so that they can get extreme clarity in their own value, and so that they can grow in confidence, and so that they can live in better alignment with their ambition. I find ambition to be an incredibly interesting concept that copywriters, artists, women, and many other individuals, they struggle with this piece. There is a belief that if you're incredibly ambitious, you are somehow less feminine, you are selfish. And these are myths that I'm trying to help people overturn via identity shifts, showing them that their ambition is usually not towards something like money or a yacht or a car. There's a deeper identity yearning that is striving to be complete via accomplishment, via helping other people. And so if we focus on that piece, ambition becomes this incredible fuel to get you there instead of something that you're wrestling with all the time. And so many people will say and agree that time is the most important resource. You hear this, categorically. But how much time are we wasting in our heads? So if I can get these writers and these young entrepreneurs out of these binds and get them focused on just taking action, getting feedback from the market, and going from there, they're going to be so much better off. So that's a hugely important part of my work right now.
And that's what we're here for. You said something interesting, identity shifting. Talk to me more about that.
For example, I have a young daughter. She's 3.5 years old. And when I first had her, I struggled with compartmentalizing myself as a businesswoman and myself as a mom. And I felt like I had to switch hats and become 2 different people, and myself as a wife as well, a supportive wife to another entrepreneur husband. When I learned that I'm much better off assuming all of that into the one identity of Laura, then I'm able to operate more fluidly in all 3 spaces. And sometimes challenges, of course, still arise. When I miss my daughter because I'm away for a weekend at a mastermind or a conference, of course I'm going to feel a little pain about that, as you should. She's my daughter. But I also think about, well, who is the woman that I would like her to be? Would I want her to be sitting at home when she has these other ambitions and these other goals and this desire to help other people? Of course not. And of course I would want her to be out in the world, testing things, trying things, getting that experience. And I find that incredibly helpful.
So to move more into what you're talking about, in your mind, do you picture the woman you see yourself to be and you try and step into that more? Like, tell us about that.
Yes, very much so. That is an exercise I do quite often. So, for example, the first time I ever spoke on stage talking about email marketing and how to write really good marketing emails, I was terrified, my voice quivered, I spoke very, very quickly. I had a friend in the audience who said, if I had a poster board, I would have held up a sign that said, slow down, you're going so fast. And fast forward to the second time, only the second time, that I speak on stage again, I asked myself before stepping out, well, how would I be if I had spoken 100 times? What would I do? And this image flooded to my head like instantly of I would pace the floor slowly back and forth. I would take pregnant pauses. I would repeat key points of emphasis. I would look at different people in the crowd. I would ask them questions and then follow-up questions. I would get it very collaborative. And just having that deep, almost trance-like meditation on this before going on. And then I stepped out on stage and that's what I did. And that was a crowd of about 300 people. So something like that might seem airy-fairy sort of exercise, but I believe that it's incredibly tactical and strategic, and it's something that anybody can do.
I love it in any situation, in any part of your life.
Yes.
I love that idea of combining all pieces of your life into one Laura. Like you can do it as a mother, you can do it on all levels.
Yes.
So being a female in this male-dominated copywriting industry, how is that? What do you have to say to women who are watching?
I often find, especially in training a lot of copywriters, that women can make much better copywriters than men. Of course, it's not a competition. Men are great too. I love them. But women have this receiving energy, this natural empathy most of the time, and incredible communication skills. So if you can put that on paper, you, odds are, have some copywriting chops somewhere in there. So I think for aspiring female copywriters, recognizing that, leaning into that space would be a very good start, a good source of strength. It does require a strong backbone, the ability to assert yourself in the conversation, the ability to sing your praises. Everything copywriting, internet marketing, this new realm of entrepreneurship in the digital era, there is a lot of talk. It's very loud. It's a very noisy space. So speak as well. Share both the struggles and the triumphs. You often have new male copywriters say, oh, wow, I've closed 5 clients. My letter has done this and that and the other thing. And I have some women mentees who say, yeah, I had a fantastic month this month, but it's not consistent. It's not every single month this happens. This is the life. And I'm like, well, why don't you share that? Like, share what the true story is. You don't have to lie. In fact, it'll only make you so much more relatable. And I'm sure the guys will even come and say, oh, yeah, that's true. I've had this exact same experience. Frame the question you want to answer. You don't have to answer anybody else's question. Ask yourself the question you want to answer and then answer it in a public way. And that is going to draw your ideal clientele to you. It's going to make you visible in your marketplace. And again, you don't have to be a 10-year veteran copywriter to be able to do this. You can read your first book about copywriting. You can notice an interesting marketing email in your inbox, and you can share your thoughts on that. Share some questions about that. Wonder how it's performing. And just by being active in the space in that way, you will get traction.
I love what you're saying because it can apply to copywriters, it can apply to influencers. It's speaking to women about don't try and be a man, how the man does it, or the woman sitting next to you.
Yes, exactly. And that is what I have found because, I could tell a lewd joke. I could have a shot at tequila. I could hang with the guys. And I could go pick flowers in the field. And that's all part of me. Again, the identity, like being Laura, just being me, and realizing that that's okay. And it's more than okay. It's great. The more comfortable I get with being who I truly am, the better my life gets, not just because it's much more peaceful and less stressful, but the more opportunity flows to me, the more friendships flow to me, the more esteem I see from my family and friends, and the better I am able to serve and teach, be that at this bit more of an esoteric level that we're talking about, or be hard strategic stuff. Answer this prompt, write me 10 emails, go rewrite them. It flows all the way through. Wanting money is great. There is no reason to try to quell that urge within you, especially for women, and especially when women work together collaboratively. Because one of the things that guys do is they'll go to the steakhouse together and have a great time, but they're also forming business deals together. They're setting up partnerships together. I would love for more and more women to be in that space of we're going to the steakhouse together and we're gonna form businesses and partnerships together to lift each other up. We're gonna create price floors if we offer services. Nobody is charging less than this. Now we uplift the whole market together. So instead of women's groups talking about our feelings, and feelings are great, but we need strategic focus and understanding that it's okay and that it's wonderful to collaboratively seek money together.
Oh, perfectly said.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
For some more incredible six-figure side hustle episodes, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You have this inner compass, and at different points, the compass changes direction, and you should follow it. Often, you have to kind of look around at your life and look at the people who are succeeding in what you want to do,